What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am here with the semifinals of the losers bracket of the CPC Offseason tournament this week against Sam and the Emerald City Milotics. I did misspeak in the last episode here in the match against Andrew in that Sam here actually won the CPC this past season. He didn't just get second place, he actually won, so he has one more championship than I do. And with that in mind, I need to obviously treat him with the utmost respect, as he certainly is a capable player and, in my opinion, a very good player as well. So, yeah, I did some pretty extensive scouting before this game, just to kind of gauge his play style a little bit, since I'm not terribly familiar with him, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what kind of player he is and what he's capable of bringing. So let's go ahead and dive into the team overview a little bit here. His team consists of Landers, Therian, Jirachi, Florges, Mega Blastoise, Hitmontop, Dredagon, Electivire, Manectric, Gourgeist, and Politoed. Now, mind you, that Gourgeist can be, I believe, any form of Gourgeist, so there's several different options there that I have to be keeping in mind. But just thinking about the biggest threats on his team, Jirachi, of course, is an enormous threat. One, because it really shuts down, or at least is a good check to Megalodios and Clefable. But two, just my luck with flinches is very bad, or just Paraflinch in general, so Scarfrachi can just intrinsically put in a lot of work against my team. So that's a little bit unfortunate, and I'll have to try to keep Jirachi in check in one way or another. Another thing to keep in mind here is Landers Therian, as a double dance set, if Megalodios is weakened, actually can just straight up sweep me. If he runs like Earthquake Knockoff, I believe would be the ideal set against me, then that will put in an enormous amount of work against my team, so I need to make sure that is held at bay as well. Just a general note about his play style: he is very heavily dependent upon his fairy to find success in his games, in that in all of his CPC matches for Season 2, he had a Sylveon on his roster, and he brought it every single week, and I believe 80 or 90% of the time it was a Wish Passing variant with Heal Bell. So he's very dependent on fairy support on his team, and his team in this tournament is no different, because he has Florges, and every time he's brought Florges, it has been a Wish Passer with Heal Bell. So I am fully anticipating Florges to come this week, and he heavily depends on Florges to keep his fatter Mons alive. He runs a very good, bulky offense team with a lot of momentum, and that momentum has helped him get free wishes off with Florges, and then of course heal up one of his other Mons. So he knows what he's doing with this team, but I also feel like I have a very good idea of how to combat that strategy, and that will be to put so much pressure on Florges that he is not able to pass off wishes to his teammates. And if he can't pass off wishes to his teammates, I'll be able to wear him down a lot with my defensive core, Megalodios, Clefable, and with Stealth Rocks coming from something. And I believe I have enough resources on my team to be able to put that pressure on him. So that's my general thoughts at the team overview. Just some threats on my team to his. Megalodios is actually an enormous threat because he doesn't have anything that can OHKO me. He has Florges, which can do, I believe, like 50% or so with an unboosted Moonblast if I don't have a Calm Mind up already. So that's a good amount of damage, but I can still set up in Florges' face unless he's a Calm Mind variant, and I am convinced that he's going to be Heal Bell variant. Without Calm Mind, he'll be Wish Protect, Moonblast, and Heal Bell. I can almost guarantee it, probably full defense as well, but if I bring a Megalodios set that can combat both the Florges and the Jirachi, then he has nothing left that can actually beat that Pokemon. So Megalodios is a huge threat, and Fernape is also a big threat against his team, especially if I run Gunk Shot. The only thing he really has that might be able to take it on are his bulky waters, and I can run Grass Knot to hit those pretty hard. I know Politoed is relatively light, but at least I can hit the Mega Blastoise very hard with Grass Knot, and then weaken Politoed with other Mons, as Politoed's only recovery is Rest, I believe, so I should be able to handle that pretty well as well. Let's see, other big threats on my team. Ursaring's also a pretty big threat as per the usual, as his primary switch into Ursaring is Landers Therian, and that is easily 2-hit KO'd. Even a defensive Ursaring is 2-hit KO'd by a Guts Facade, so that's not really a switch into Ursaring, to say the least. And Jirachi can switch in on a Facade, but I will gladly weaken Jirachi, as that'll make my job a lot easier with Clef and Megalodios. So that's about all I have to say at the team overview. Let's hop over to the team I decided to bring this week. Now, I started it off with Megalodios, as per the usual, as I think it's an amazing Pokemon in the format. Borderline broken, I would say, probably broken, but regardless, this week I'm bringing Calm Mind, Recover, Store Power, and Shadow Ball. The reasoning behind Store Power is essentially so that I can beat the Florges 1v1 without having to run like Psyshock. I kind of wanted to run Store Power just because it would essentially guarantee that I can knock out anything. Really at +4, I believe, at +4 Calm Minds, I'll be able to knock out anything on his team, unless he's a Calm Mind boosting Florges of his own, in which case I'll have to get +6 to 2-hit KO. But even so, I think this is very, very good against him, and then the build here lets me survive hits from essentially anything. Even Adamant Life Orb Electivire cannot 2-hit KO this set with Ice Punch, so this thing is so fat and so good against his team, and I'm excited to see how it does. Now, the speed here is allowing me to speed creep a timid Politoed, just in case he decides to bring a fast Politoed with Encore to try to shut down a sub-Calm Mind set. So yeah, that's about all there is on this. This takes hits from pretty much everything and is easily a win condition in this game. Next up is the Clefable. This set is more or less a lure for the Dredagon, but also just a means of keeping the pressure on the Florges, as if he decides to make Florges his primary switch into this, then I'm going to set up Calm Minds in its face and do a bunch of damage to whatever comes in. If he decides to make Jirachi a switch into this, I can click Shadow Ball every time and have a good time with that. So overall, this set's pretty good. Kabai Berry is there, of course, to absorb poison attacks from his Pokemon. Most likely that would be in the form of Dredagon, and with that in mind, I am speed creeping a Dredagon who chooses to speed creep Clefable, so that's why I have the 12 random EVs and speed there, just in case he decides to get cheeky with his Dredagon. So Ice Beam is there to ensure that Landorus T cannot set up a free Swords Dance in my face. Ice Beam does a ton of damage, almost a guaranteed OHKO after Stealth Rock, if I recall correctly, on a max HP Landorus T, so that's pretty good if I do say so myself. But yeah, overall this is just here to maintain my momentum and just make sure that he can't really get anything going. Next up is the Ursaring. Kind of like I said before, it just does a ton of damage to his team. All I really need are Facade and Crunch to do a bunch of damage. Protect is just there in case I need my Toxic Orb to like take down the Florges or something, but more often than not I'm just going to click Facade unless it's very obvious that he's going to go into Jirachi, or if he brings Gourgeist for some reason. So just overall this is very good against him. EVs here are somewhat random on the speed factor, just in case he tries to creep like a standard Ursaring with something. I decided to add a little bit extra investment. This should outspeed pretty much any of his walls, trying to speed creep any of my other walls. That's kind of the idea, just to make sure this thing is faster than all of his fat stuff. And yeah, so that's about all there is to say on Ursaring. Next up is Milotics. So this is my best answer to Scarf Jirachi, as this will obviously force Scarf Jirachi, if he's spamming Iron Head, to take Rocky Helmet damage every single time, and with the amount of pressure that I'm going to put on Florges, I believe I will be able to prevent the Jirachi from absorbing any wishes and getting any health back. So this will just allow me to slowly chip down the Jirachi, and it will be of utmost importance to keep this thing healthy throughout the game. The only exception to that is that I am willing to take an electric attack from the Manectric if he brings it, or from a special Electivire if he brings that. The only electric attack that he has that has a chance to OHKO me is a Life Orb, Adamant, Wild Charge from Electivire. Otherwise, nothing he has can OHKO me, and Manectric and Special Electivire both are not going to appreciate the Mirror Coat that will follow whatever Volt Switch they try to go for. So overall, Milotic is looking incredible in this matchup. Now, the really cheeky thing here that I'm sure you've been looking at and just wondering, what the heck, why am I bringing Wrap on this Milotic? Well, it's there to prevent the Florges from Wish Passing, as he is so dependent upon Florges Wish Passing to keep his Mons healthy, that I felt Wrap was actually necessary and competitively viable this week, and I'm excited to see how that actually works out, as Wrap will, of course, deny the Wish Pass from Florges. Sure, it can still use Wish and heal itself, but I really don't care on that. I don't care if it heals itself, I just don't want it to heal its teammates, as I already have Bronzong, and Infernape, and Milotic, and Ursaring, not Milotic, I have Ursaring, all of which are things that can essentially do well over 50% to Florges, and then I have two things that can set up in Florges' face, so I don't really care if Florges is healthy, I just don't want him to be able to pass wishes to his teammates. So Wrap is very good here, and EV spreads just essentially allowed me to live any 2 hits from almost anything on his roster, so that's a pretty good deal too. So yeah, that's about the team, or that's about the Milotic, and next up is the Infernape. This set, I played with a lot of options, as Infernape really did have a lot of potential against his team. I was torn between running Close Combat or Substitute on this, Obviously, if I ran close combat, I would not have run a Pataya Berry, but this set does allow me to take out, or at least do like 60 to 70% to a standard Mega Blastoise after I get the Pataya boost with Grass Knot, so that's pretty nice. And the Pataya Berry, of course, allows me to do a ton of work to his entire roster with Fire Blast. This set will be slightly shut down if he brings the Politoed, especially if it's an Assault Vest variant, as I would do nothing to it with Grass Knot. It'd be like, I think 15 to 20% with Grass Knot in that case. I would need a lot more investment and a Life Orb to be able to do good damage to Politoed with Grass Knot, but at least with this set, if he's not Assault Vest, I can do 25 or 30% or so with Grass Knot, which should be enough considering Politoed's lack of recovery options. So yeah, Gunk Shot is there to 2-hit KO defensive Florges, just to kind of keep the pressure on Florges, make sure that it can't pass a Wish for free. It has to take a big hit in the process if it wants to do so here, and Fire Blast hits a lot of his team. Also, Substitute is very good because if I can get up a Substitute, Scarf Rachi cannot flinch me down, at least while I have the Substitute up, and I can get off a free Fire Blast. It's also nice if he is not a Scarf Jirachi, as I can just sub down, predicting him to switch out into something else. So yeah, Infernape looks pretty good this week. Next up is the Bronzong. This is a dedicated Landorus Therian counter plus Stealth Rock Lair plus another Mon to keep the pressure on Florges, as Earthquake hits Jirachi pretty hard. Heavy Slam does a ton to Florges, as I am, relatively heavy, and Florges is surprisingly light. For being a fairy, I guess it makes sense, but it's a very light Pokemon, so Heavy Slam does a lot of damage. Hidden Power Ice easily 2-hit KOs any form of Landorus T. I do not at all anticipate Yachi Berry on Landorus T. It's just not in my opponent's nature to run Resist Berries. He's very much a he's kind of like Cheese Boy, if you've seen my preparation for his videos, in that he's pretty predictable in his prep in terms of items especially. He's going to run things like Life Orb, Leftovers, Assault Vest, choice items, some of the standard stuff, but he doesn't really run berries or anything of that sort. So I think Hidden Power Ice is pretty good there, and the investment, of course, allows me to 2-hit KO all Landorus Therians. So yeah, and this investment also lets me guaranteed knock out a substitute from the Druddigon if he decides to bring Druddigon with like a standard max HP spread. I believe this is enough investment to ensure that I can break the substitute and prevent it from being an annoying wall breaker. So that is the team. I'm looking forward to this match. I feel pretty confident in the matchup just because of what I've decided to bring and what I know, or what I'm pretty confident that he will bring, and like how he'll play the game. I feel very prepared for this match. That's the best way to put it. And I guess we'll see what happens. But the loser of this match does get knocked out of the tournament with a 4th place finish, so I'm definitely not wanting to be in that position. I want to advance to losers finals, which really was my goal. Once I was knocked into the losers bracket, I wanted to make it to at least the 3rd place game, hopefully the championship, and winning this game will be the last step on that journey to the losers bracket finals. So here we go. Let's go ahead and see what he decided to bring. So at team preview, he brought essentially a team I anticipated. I don't really agree with a Manectric, just because it is easy bait for Milotic to go for a Mirror Coat. It's also hard walled by Megalodios when Electivire could at least have nearly 2-hit KO'd a Megalodios with Ice Punch. So I think Electivire might have been the better call there personally, but he also brought the Politoed, which makes things a little harder for Infernape, and I'm a little bit sad that he brought it, but he probably was expecting me to be a special Infernape, and or at least a specially based Infernape with Gunk Shot. That's the most likely set against him, and that is what I brought, so he probably expected that, which is a little bit unfortunate. So the Politoed's going to be a little bit of an issue in that regard, but what else? He brought the Jirachi, Landorus T, Florges, Mega Blastoise. None of that is really something I didn't expect. The Florges, of course, is my primary target in this game. Just want to make sure it cannot help its teammates whatsoever. Essentially, let's make it useless and see if he can find a way to win otherwise. I do need to keep Milotic as healthy as possible, just in case he has a Scarf Jirachi, as Scarf Jirachi can just win. That's just the nature of Scarf Jirachi, so I guess we'll go ahead and see what happens. But as far as the lead matchup, I think Milotic is my best lead against him, just because if he does lead Manectric, I get a free Mirror Coat, as he can't OHKO me with anything unless he's like Specs Thunder. So that's something to keep in mind. And if he leads anything else, then I can get off a free Scald against him, and he probably will take Rocky Helmet damage if it's Jirachi or Landorus T. So yeah, Milotic is a great lead. Let's go ahead and jump on into the battle and see what happens. So I lit off with Milotic, which I named Emerald City for this matchup fittingly, and he leads off with Landorus. This is a free Scald as he goes for U-turn, revealing that he is a max attack Landorus from that damage, so that's good information to have. And I'll just go for the Scald, and I get the burn on the Mega Blastoise, which is pretty convenient and something I wasn't exactly anticipating. I don't even know why I run Scald anymore, but whatever. I get some good damage on Blastoise, and I just go for the Recover, and somehow I actually outspeed this, so he's running like no speed on this thing, and his Dark Pulse does negligible damage to Milotics, so that's pretty cool. And now, expecting him to switch out, I'm just going to go for another Scald, just in case he wants to go into Jirachi or something. And he goes Florges, which is fine. It's kind of expected, and here's the point where I can actually reveal my little strategy of keeping that Florges right here, and that is by going for Wrap as he goes for the Moonblast. I don't know if he's scouting damage or just trying to weaken me a little bit. Maybe predicted to switch into something like Ursaring, I don't know. But yeah, I take that very well, and he is stuck in there and can't pass that wish to anyone. But now I am just going to go for the Mirror Coat, expecting the Moonblast, and it does a good chunk of damage. Maybe I shouldn't have revealed it at this point, but regardless, it's not a huge deal, as I'm still sitting at pretty high health, and Florges is as well. So now, expecting him to go for Wish, I'm going to go into my Ursaring, which allows me to get a free Toxic Orb up, and allows me to get off a huge hit on something, and now I get to dish out a Guts Facade on the incoming Landorus. It does survive, but it takes 70%. That's how strong Ursaring is. It's amazing. But I am going to be forced to switch out here just in case he has some speed on this. I couldn't really risk the Superpower Earthquake there. And I still had my Bronzong at full health, so I could switch that in freely and just go for my rocks. Now here he switches out, which actually, let me pause briefly. That should have been an indicator to me that he was not that he was probably choice in some way, because I mean, he could have gone for U-turn there otherwise. He certainly had U-turn or knockoff or something. I'm really surprised he didn't go for it there. So he's probably choice, but that did not register in the battle. So that's something to note. But here, I just go for the rocks as he goes into Jirachi, and I'll go straight into my Milotic to eat up whatever he wants to go for. He decides to go for Thunder Wave, so that's annoying. But I do get the Marvel Scale boost now, which is pretty nice, meaning I'll be able to take essentially any hit whatsoever from the Landorus T. So that's always good news to have. Plus, it prevents me from getting burned by the Blastoise, so that's cool. Now here, I'm just going to go for the Wrap, again, to prevent the Florges from trying to Wish Pass to one of his other Mons. And at this point, I do switch out, knowing that he can't do anything else, and just go straight into my Bronzong. This does give him an unfortunate opportunity to heal something up, so that was kind of a misplay on my part that I should not have allowed to happen, but he decides to go Landorus anyways, so it's not a huge deal. As I double back into my Milotic, maybe I'll be able to get off another Scald on something. So that is what I could have gone for, but I decided to pull the switch into my Bronzong, just in case he wanted to go into his Manectric, as I really didn't want to take the damage with Milotic from Manectric, but he goes there anyways, probably bluffing the Overheat or the Flamethrower as I go into my Lottie, which is fine. It's just an easy switch in every single time, as even with a crit that did negligible damage. Here he just goes into his Jirachi, and I'm not going to let this get T-Wave for sure, so I'm going straight into Milotic, and he goes for the T-Wave, so that's pretty good to be able to predict that. So now I'm going to be able to just go straight for, I believe, a Scald. I go for the Recover because I want to be at maximum health, of course, to be able to take hits from the Jirachi. But here he goes for the Wish, as I just wrap him up right there, make sure he cannot pass that Wish to his Blastoise or his Landorus T. So that's pretty good news. And now I'm just going to switch into Bronzong, knowing that he can't really do anything. I'll probably just protect, and this is a nice opportunity to try to predict a switch and do some damage that way. So I just decide to, I believe, go for the Earthquake. Which is fine, just in case he wanted to go Jirachi. That's the most important thing to weaken for me. So Earthquake was the best play, and I have Hidden Power Ice to deal big damage to this Landorus T. Anyways, so that's pretty good news. He is going to be forced to switch out into his Manectric, as I go ahead and switch out myself into my Milotic, expecting a U-turn, but he does not go for U-turn again, so it's probably a choice Landorus. That's a good assumption at this point. But he does a good amount of damage with the Volt Switch, but I bop him with the Mirror Coat, and down goes the Florges, so that's very nice. Now there's really no risk at all of him Wish Passing, especially because his Jirachi hasn't revealed Wish of his own, so it's probably not a Wish set, and he probably has no form of support for his team at this point. Here I just go straight into my Latias, as this is a very free switch into the Manectric, and I can just Mega up and go for the Recover, not really fearing anything, and now expecting the U-turn or Iron Head or another Thunder Wave. I'm just going to just go straight into my Milotic. He opts to actually take the Rocky Helmet damage, which is nice. I'll definitely accept that, as he goes into his Manectric, taking more Stealth Block damage. So he's just getting worn down here slowly, as now I'll just go straight into my Lottie, as it's very free. I see no reason not to, and he's just taking a bunch of damage from the rocks and whatnot. Now here, is where, I guess it was a small misplay. I'll pause here briefly. Just based upon the damage prior, I believe that it was actually a max HP, max attack Landorus T, and with that in mind, it obviously would not be able to outspeed a standard Mega Latias. So that was my original assumption. The thing that I did not realize was that he's actually choice scarfed here, and that's why he wasn't going for a knockoff followed up by like a U-turn, or wasn't going for an earthquake followed up by a U-turn. That's something that definitely should have registered in my head during the game, but unfortunately for me, that does bite me in the butt here, as my Lottie takes a lot of damage from the outrage coming from this Scarf Landorus T most likely, and that's fine. I'm able to actually knock it out with a Shadow Ball, but my Lottie's weakened, so I have to find a good opportunity to heal it up. Here, I'm just going to go straight into my Bronzong, as now with Florges gone and Landorus gone, it's the most expendable member of my team, and he makes a U-turn into his Politoed, which is a little bit scary, as I don't really have anything that wants to switch in at the moment, with both Milotic and Lottie being at relatively low health, but because of my speed creeping on this Lottie, I know it is a very free recover. The worst he can do is go for a Toxic here, or like a Sing or Hypnosis or whatever. A Sing, wow, a Hypnosis, but luckily he does not have that, and the damage here does indeed reveal that, I believe I went for a Shadow Ball there, it does indeed reveal that he is an Assault Vest Politoed, so that's something I definitely need to keep in mind, and it's going to definitely shut down Infernape for the time being. So Infernape is looking like a win condition in this game, honestly, at this point, especially with the Rachi revealing the Thunder Wave earlier. Is probably not choice. The Manectric's damage output is saying it's probably Expert Belt, so Infernape's looking like a win con if I can weaken the Politoed. Now, I do manage to take out the Blastoise by predicting the Dark Pulse or the Ice Beam and then switching an Ursaring and knocking it out with a Facade. So that's pretty nice. I'm going to sack Ursaring to the Jirachi, and here I'm going to scare out the presumably non-choice Jirachi with my Infernape and just go for the sub, as I feel like I can at least, if he goes into Manectric, I can dish off 2 big hits with Infernape, or still probably 1. Regardless, I can get off Grass Knot damage on the Politoed, which is very important considering it is Assault Vested with no way of recovery. So now I can go straight into my Lottie again, as this thing is so fat and it can take any hit. Shadow Ball is doing negligible damage to this. I probably could have gone for a Calm Mind on that turn, but the fact that he revealed Body Slam makes it a much better play that I didn't. But here he gets the crit with Ice Beam on the Milotic, which isn't really that big of a deal. As long as I can get off a recover on this turn, I should be in good shape to put in a lot of work this game, but I get paralyzed, so I will pause here briefly, as if I was able to get off the recover with the Milotic right there, the game would have been over, and that is because he had essentially no way to recover with Jirachi. He was a purely physical set. He'd have to go for Iron Head to do damage to me. His only other way of doing damage to my Milotic was with Manectric, and Mega Lottie was at high enough health to be able to beat the Manectric 1v1 every single time. So if I was able to get out the recover right there, the game was essentially over. So Parahex definitely played a role in that particular instance. Now next up, I'll bring in the Clefable, as it's, you know, not really super useful at this point in the game, it seems, as he has the Jirachi that can just come in essentially every time. He actually decides to go into his Politoed here, probably just to get the rain up to prevent Infernape from coming in and doing work to this Jirachi. And I just go for the Soft Boil here just in case he tries to lure me into killing him so he has more rain turns with Jirachi, but he makes a nice play and goes straight into Jirachi, knowing that he really doesn't need to fear me. However, in hindsight, my best play probably was just to go for Shadow Ball anyways, just in case he went Jirachi, as after Shadow Ball damage, it would probably faint to a series of Iron Heads against my Milotic's Rocky Helmet. So here I'm going to go into my Infernape again, and he reveals to actually be Choice Scarf. So this Jirachi, this Jirachi is Thunder Wave, Choice Scarf, Iron Head, and U-turn and something else. So that's unexpected to say the least, but this is what we're dealing with. And now with my entire team being weakened, and I'm very susceptible to being flinched down by Iron Heads. So I guess we'll see what happens. As you can see, he did get the flinch there against my Infernape, and I am not going to put up with that, as Infernape is my win con. If I can maybe force him to take enough Rocky Helmets to kill himself, that'd be awesome, but don't quite have enough there. That technically was a misplay. I probably should have gone into my Lottie first. Yeah, I should have gone to my Lottie first there, so that then he would have to get an extra flinch against my Milotic with the Jirachi, but it's fine. But here I go into my Mega Lottie, and he gets the flinch there as well. So now it comes down to, is he going to be able to flinch down my Infernape as well? And as you can see here, he actually does. So that concludes our run in this tournament. I yeah, I've had a very unlucky tournament, to say the least. I think I played well enough, definitely well enough in this game to win. I played well on my standards as well. So it's just really unfortunate to see it end like that. But I did do some calculations, and the odds of me losing this game were 3.24%. So a little bit better than my odds of losing the MPL Championship to Trev a while back, but still 3% is what I lost on, so that's pretty cool. And then if I were to not make the misplay with the... Oops. If I were to not make the misplay with the Milotic and forced him to get one more flinch, then he would have had a 1.9% chance to win. So that's how much the misplay really mattered, about 1%. I don't know if it really would have made a difference, especially because I was paralyzed as well, so that calc's actually a little bit off. But yep, so that happened, and we're out of the tournament, unfortunately. But thanks for following me throughout this tournament. It was a pretty fun deal. I got to experiment with Megalodios and prove how disgustingly bulky it is, and how amazing it is in the format too. I got exposed to some low-tier threats. I learned that Bronzong is actually pretty viable in the format. I also like Ursaring in the format, and it was fun to get to play around with the versatility of Infernape as well, and I learned Milotic is pretty good too. So I had a lot of fun playing with these guys, and it's a little bit sad to see it come to an end like this, but what can you do about hacks, right? Pokemon's a very competitive game. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and with the NPL coming up in just a couple weeks, I'll definitely be turning my focus to that, and I'll be bringing my team, or my draft analysis video for that here, if not this weekend, at least next weekend, and I'm pretty excited to show you guys what I drafted this time around, and I'm excited to make it work as well, as my team's looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you all next time. Peace.